soon as we get any project for the development, so the entire team has to contribute into the project. So being a QA or being a test engineer, we need to start right from the requirement gathering phase. So requirement gathering is the foremost, or you can say the root of any project. So if we have the correct requirement with us, only then we can develop a product that is desired by the client, or else there would definitely be some flaws into it. So when I say requirement gathering phase, we start off with requirement gathering. QA has to be the part of requirement gathering, because QA is the best person who can analyze the pros and cons of any project. He has a broader view of analyzing any of the product basically. So a QA, after understanding the entire requirement, so when the project comes into the development phase, the developer starts off with developing the functionality of their project or the product maybe. So being a QA, we start writing the test cases, because test cases needs to be documented as it is desired by the client, and we need to keep it for our reference also in the future. That is again a very important aspect. Reason being, if somewhere down the line a QA has to maybe leave the organization, or maybe we have to replace a new key with a new QA. So in that particular instance, the next QA has to understand what all functionality have been tested and what all needs to be yet tested. So the documentation is very important. Once the test cases has been documented, the development is going parallelly, and once the development completes, the ticket, or you can say the task, moves to the QA for the testing. Now the exact role of QA, you can say the most important part of the project development comes in this phase. So when we are testing, QA has to have a very broader view, because if a QA don't have a broader view, he cannot test each and every scenario of that product. So while we say that he had to have a broader view, it is also important for that particular QA to understand this similar product, because if I just try to relate it with a prestige beauty brand that we have been working for. So being a QA, he should have the knowledge of how an e-commerce site works, or how because anyways the beauty brands are all product and that are sold onto the e-commerce sites. So until and unless any QA don't have the knowledge of the e-commerce site, he cannot go back and test all these scenarios. So it is very important to understand how the e-commerce site works, what is the product that needs to be sold. And so when the QA starts off with testing, he always goes back to the test cases or the documentation that he has done, and then he relates it, whether I have tested this scenario or whether I have missed this. So any of this scenario that he come across in this phase and have been missed earlier, he goes back and document that also for the future reference. Once the everything is very well tested with the positive and the negative scenarios, if there are any bugs, or if there are any, you can say, mismatch between the expectation and the actual results, we create a ticket. When I say create a ticket, it is nothing but a simple task that needs to be improved, that a particular functionality which is not designed as desired and has to be improved, or maybe needs the rework. So we create the ticket into the Jira board. Jira is a test case, or you can say the entire test product management tool. So we create the ticket into the Jira, and that gets assigned again to the developer. The developer has to work on that ticket, and once he completes up with the development task for that particular bug or the issue that QA has raised, it again comes back to QA for retesting. When we say retesting, that particular thing, the issue, the bug that the QA has raised, he has to retest that. Along with that, he has to perform a sanity and the regression test. Sanity test just to ensure that everything is working as expected. So it is a very high level of testing, the random testing basically we say. Regression testing comes into role when we have something developed earlier, and because of the new changes that we have made, we need to ensure that nothing has been broken that was previously working. Hence regression testing is very important. So once this testing is done, we move the ticket to the done state, or you can say the maybe before done. So this depends upon the project to project. So at times we have the done state, at times we have the UAT testing. So UAT testing is generally done by the client themselves. So when we test any ticket, we always comment that ticket properly. When I say comment, we make sure that we have written what test data did we use while testing that ticket, what was the environment that we used. When I say environment, there are different environments. Before we actually go live onto the production environment, there is a development, then there is QA environment, there is UAT environment. So we need to very well mention that on which environment did we test this task, and along with it we need to mention the credentials that we had been using for the testing purpose. And if possible, we generally try and capture the screenshot and put it into this ticket, just to ensure that while I tested this particular thing, this was working fine, and this is the screenshot of that particular task that I had tested. Once it goes to the client, they perform the UAT testing, and if they are satisfied by the testing, they move the ticket to the done state. And this is what, when we say the functionality is developed end to end, which which comprises of the development phase, the testing phase, the UAT testing, and the done state. So this is an end-to-end cycle basically. So this is part of manual testing. So when we have a larger project, or even if we don't have a larger project, we generally tend to minimize the manual efforts. Reason being, doing a repetitive thing on the daily basis, it generally we don't come, in that particular case, we don't come across any bugs that we face, because we as a human get habitual of looking at the things that look alike, right? So for that case, and to minimize the manual effort, we try and automate the maximum thing that we can do, so that we don't need to do a same task again and again. So when we say we automate the things, we automate any particular functionality. For automating any particular functionality, we need to see which is the best tool that can very well adjust with our development cycle or with the product that we are developing. There are multiple tools that we can use for automating. So when I'm saying we are automating now, I mean to say we are automating the functional aspects. We are not doing any performance testing or maybe the security testing as of now. We are just doing the functional aspect to minimize the manual efforts. So for performing the manual functional testing, we have ample of open source tool available in the market. So the best tool is Selenium, as per my understanding. There are many other tools as well, but I generally prefer using Selenium. So when we say Selenium, Selenium is pure Java based tool that uses the Java library, and you can automate any functionality using that. But since we are a Drupal based company, so when we come across any PHP site, any Drupal CMS, we tend to use a tool that can interact very well with PHP or Drupal. Reason being, it becomes quite easy even for the developer to somewhere go down the line and see if there are some bugs. Since it is a PHP code, they can easily understand what QA has written, and they can debug easily. So for when I say the PHP testing tools, we have Codeception, we have Behat. So they are specifically made for PHP. They are the unit level testing tools. So we code into the Behat or maybe the Codeception, and then once we have that in place, so what we do is we never again do the manual testing the entire. Suppose we need to add a content. So since we are talking about the beauty brands, so there are multiple products into the beauty brands. Suppose I want to create a content and from the backend. So if I consider it to be a manual task, I would at least need 5 to 10 minutes to create the content from backend and to verify that it is visible onto the front end or not. So but if I automate, it would hardly take 5 minutes for me. 5 minutes right from the adding the content, verifying onto the front end. So that is the most important reason why we go ahead and automate certain functionalities that are most widely used. So again, this is more of a decision making part, that what functionality needs to be automated and what needs to not to be automated. So that generally comes with experience. So this is the part of automation, the functionality, the functional automation that I'm talking about. And then since it is an e-commerce site, we also need to do the performance testing. Performance testing is, I would say, it is the prerequisite that we need to have before we go live for any of the e-commerce site. Reason being, since it is an e-commerce site, it is open to many guest users plus to the authenticated users as well. So what if all of the sudden 100 users start using my site at the same time? How would my site respond? Would it go down? Would it go slow? So this is what I need to understand, and this is what I need to be very well prepared ahead. Because if I go live, my site is all live onto the Google. You can search on the Google, it is available over the internet. But what if 50 users started using and the site is no more responding me? Then that's a bad user experience. And after all, we all are working for the better user experience, better customer experience. So that is the reason why the performance testing or the load testing is very important. So we need to test our site with a certain load. When I say certain load, I mean to say a specific number of users. What is the response time that I am expecting? By response time, I mean to say what is the time that I'm expecting. If I click on a certain link, I should that particular page should open up in how much time? Should it be 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds? What is the exact time? and that time has to be agreed both between the development team and the client. It shouldn't be like client is saying the page should open in 1 second, but according to me it is opening in 5 seconds. Then there's a, you can say, the expectation mismatch. We definitely need to, agree upon a certain number, that this is the number that I would be considering, or this is the good performance number that you have while your site is live for, let's say, 100 users, 200 users at the very same time. So overall, this is the entire cycle from right from the development phase till the functionality is completely developed. So when you say the reporting and the coordination, yes, coordination is very important among the team while we are doing any development, or when we are, we are in the process of developing any product. Reporting, it is very important for the client. Reason being, some clients are very technical, some are not. So they need a overall or a overview of the report, that these are the functionalities that we developed, and this much functionality is working good, this is not working good, or this is passing, this is failing. So since they are not very techy, so they just need some numbers, right? So when I say I am a client and I'm not very technical, and I've asked you to develop 5 functionalities. So out of 5 functionalities, if 4 are working fine as expectations, so me being a client, I would say, okay, 4 are working fine, 1 is not working fine, I'm good to go. You take your time and just enhance this functionality, or just improve this functionality, maybe resolve the bug issues or whatever the improvements are. But the client need to have that report. If they don't have that report, and the report that I'm saying, it should be self-explanatory, it should not involve code and all, it should be plain English. And the very suggested reports are the HTML reports. HTML reports, reason being they're quite colorful. You can always depict HTML reports into the form of pie charts, graphs, or maybe a tabular report. So that makes more sense to the client. So when I say reporting, there are n number of reporting that are available. There is XML report, there are the JSON reports, there are the HTML reports. So as just said, that HTML reports are the best. So while we do the automation testing, the functional aspect of the performance testing, we always fetch a report, and that report is passed on to the client. So now the main question comes, when do we need to report it to the client? When we do need to share the reports with the client or the internal team. So what we do is, we as a QA first perform the test, fetch the report, share it with the internal team, gather the feedbacks. Feedbacks in the sense that there might be a case when my script needs to be modified, there might be a case when development script needs to be modified. Maybe there are cases when they need to apply certain checks, or maybe simplify some queries so that the response is faster. We gather all the feedbacks, we work on the feedback, and once we have a report that is by which we as an internal team are satisfied, only then we pass that report to the client. When I say we pass that report to the client, we generally make it happen every sprint. So we have a sprint of 15 days, that is around 2 weeks. So we share the reports onto the every sprint wise. So once we share the report, we wait for the client's feedback. Client give us a feedback, okay, this looks good, or this needs to be improved, whatever the feedback the client has. We again incorporate that feedback, we work on the feedbacks, we work on the improvements, and again share the report to the client. Hence the reporting is so important. Now comes the coordination. When I say coordination, the coordination between development team and the QA team is very important. It is generally said that QAs and developers cannot be friends, which is not true at all. So they can be very good friends, because QA, it's not doing a QA doesn't mean that we are pointing out the mistakes. No, never. Being a QA means we are trying to get a better user experience. We are trying to get a better user feedbacks. If my site is too difficult to use, right, although developer has done his best, but me being a QA or me being a end user, I'm not able to use that site flawlessly or maybe easily, right? So that is a pain. That is a pain for me. So there's no harm in going back to the developer and saying, come on, this is something that I think we can improve on this area, or maybe we can enhance this area so that it becomes user friendly. So the developer can always discuss this within a team, and we together can sort what is the best. Although designs are generally shared by the client, but still we can always go back to client and suggest that this is the we think that this is the better way. What are your suggestions onto it? So that is the need of the coordination between a team. If a developer has developed certain functionality and if I found some issues or the bugs in there, that is my responsibility to put it in a comment and go back to developer and say that these are the things that you need to improve, and you may please improve this. There's those I don't think even the developer should get offensive in that I have pointed a mistake in their work. No, that's not the case. The entire, or you can say the whole agenda is to create a better user experience. That's it. QA engineers are a key role in the product development. So as I just answered a couple of minutes ago, that being a QA, we play a very important role. We play a very important role in understanding the product, getting the product developed in a right direction, having the better user experience. So when we come at a UAT testing stage, so there we start testing it as a end user. We do not work as a QA anymore. Rather than we start working as an end user. If I am an end user, if I'm looking at any of the website, what is my expectation from the website? What is the type of the data I am trying to get, or maybe what is the thing that attracts me the most? So these are the things that an end user can only think, or maybe an end user expect these things from a website. So we generally put it down on a notepad, or maybe we put it down in a sheet somewhere and share it with the client as well as the internal team. And then as a entire team, along with the brand, along with the client, we sit together and we analyze what all points we can work upon and what can be ignored, or maybe we can put it to be worked upon at a later stage of time. So that is the only reason why QA plays a very important role. And QAs are generally said to be proxy POs, the proxy product owners. So they knows the product the best. So even a developer won't know the product at such a level that a QA knows, because QA tests the entire functionality end to end. Developer develops the task into chunks, but a QA tests the functionality of the product end to end. So they know the product better. They have a broader view. They know what a end user expects. They know what can irritate a end user, what can attract end user. Hence the view or the suggestion of a QA are very important.